Okay, I'm counting down.
Two o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Boy, that last hour was fun.
That was great. We could have done another hour, I think, with
Right.
those ladies.
The three of them were hilarious. That was so much fun. Whitney was phenomenal.
Yep.
I'm glad she came.
I'm excited about people having a chance to really see that up close and examine it the way we've had a chance to do, because they'll be as impressed as we are, if not more.
I agree totally. And I just want to remind people, anybody that gives $1,000 to the annual campaign, we are giving them an 11 by 17 numbered signed print of that. And that would be just a great something to have for families that have been around St. Luke's for a while.
Sure would.
Or for kids that are here now. I just think that'd be really neat. So I've got a little bit of housekeeping to do once again. We had a match challenge last hour that we announced from the Finleys with all-weather roofing.
Right.
So we put a little dent in that, about $575 on that. So we really want to collect that $5,000 from them. We're going to need to kind of step up our game.
I think, in fairness, most of the folks that were out there watching us that were counting on probably taking a lunch break, maybe a little late lunch, right? So now that everyone is sort of back at it, I'm sure we're going to see an uptick.
Good. Because that's such a generous offer from them. The Holtz did theirs earlier, and now the Finleys have done theirs, and that just, doubles the impact of the gift. So that's really nice. I have a couple of other challenges. The Etheridge family has challenged the rest of the 2024 or sophomore class, I believe that is. If they get 100% parent participation, they're providing pizza party for the sophomore class.
Nice.
And then the Cassis offered to do the exact same thing for the senior class. So if we can get 100% participation from those parents, then they will provide a pizza lunch for the senior class. So let's talk about participation a little bit right here.
Sure. You know, as we've mentioned, the participation piece is really critical for us as we not only look to use participation as a way of making sure that every family sort of understands how it works at St. Luke's and what's needed. It's also helpful as we're putting together grant applications and reaching out to other nonprofits whose mission is to support nonprofits like ours. When our level of participation among our stakeholders is high, that reflects very, very well. It puts us much closer to the top of the list when it comes to funding opportunities.
It does, and speaking of that, we just heard from Mr. Chris Lee of the J.L. Bedsole Foundation. He's the executive director there, and he has written us a sweet little happy 60th note from the Bedsole Foundation,
Nice.
Which has been huge supporters of ours over the years.
Sure.
And Connie, who's working behind the scenes today, is going to drop that later in a post and let everybody see that message.
Nice. Think about our biomed program and how that foundation has had such an impact on that program alone.
They have had a huge impact, which has allowed us to do something that nobody else in the area is doing.
Right.
And speaking of our biomed program today, I don't know if you've seen the purple scrubs walking around, but the nursing students from Spring Hill College are on campus for the next 4 weeks teaching nutrition classes to our fundamentals in biomedical sciences class. And that came about, that's kind of an interesting thing because they usually do their pediatric rotations through the hospitals, and due to COVID apparently there's some restrictions there. They're still going in, but they're not getting the number of hours that they've had in the past, and so they reached out to us to partner with us to be able to do some pediatric education on nutrition. And so it's a win-win. We get the benefit of having those college students on our campus teaching our students, and they're able to check some boxes that they needed to in their curriculum.
Terrific.
So so today was the first day of 4 visits that we'll have from them.
I saw the purple scrubs, but I didn't know what that meant. Now I know.
Now you know.
Thank
Now
you.
you know. We love to have guests come into that program.
Sure.
Karen Haynes does the same thing in engineering. We like to have, people that work in the field when it comes to some type of STEM program. I always say our STEM has 2 M's because the last one's medical. But in a traditional STEM program, even it's nice to have people who work in those fields in our classrooms with our students.
Right.
So, and I know you're going to get to talk about some of that in just a minute, and that's going to be exciting. Couple more things. We still have our Cammie's Old Dutch challenge out there for the next $500 gift. The next person that does that will get a half gallon of ice cream for a year every month. That's pretty nice. Any flavor, from what I understand. A Meat Boss, the next $300 gift will get a $50 gift card for Meat Boss, breakfast or lunch.
That's terrific.
We have lots of Whataburger sandwiches that Whataburger donated. So everybody that gives $50 or more, we're giving a Whataburger sandwich for their whole family.
Nice.
So whatever that number is. And I told you about the challenges. So
yep.
I'm going to go back out there, and hopefully the Venmo and the text and the credit card phone numbers are ringing. We do want to point out that our Venmo number is at St. Luke's-Episcopal School. And if you need a PIN number, and it seems to be a little confusing, not everybody needs a PIN number.
Right.
But if you do, it's 3981. And if you don't, for some reason it doesn't think you need it, we're still getting those gifts when they come in. Or you can text SLES Wildcats, all one word, and it is case sensitive, so that's capital SLESW and the lowercase rest of the word Wildcats to 76278. Or call Tracy Taylor at 251-591-5774 if you prefer to just give a credit card number over the phone.
Terrific.
Well, I'm going to let your next guests come in and
Good.
talk about something very passionate for you,
That's
I'm sure.
True. You're absolutely
All
right.
righty.
Yep,
Well, I'll be back in an hour.
Thank you. Ladies, whenever you're ready. There's a chair for each of you. Are you nervous at all?
Not really.
Good. You shouldn't be. We're not going to talk about anything that you don't already know about, because a big part of what we're going to talk about, at least initially, is some of the experiences that you've had so far. But if you would, introduce yourself.
I'm Armanhi Coleman.
Armanhi Coleman, and you are new to St. Luke's
Yes, sir.
this year. Where were you in school last year?
Phillips Preparatory School.
Okay, so you came to us from Phillips Prep. And next to you, who do we have?
I'm Mrs. Susan Gaston-Jones, and I am also new to St. Luke's this year.
So between the three of us, so here's what's interesting. I just had a conversation with three folks whose combined years of experience at St. Luke's was well over 100 years. Okay, we're now three of us sitting here whose combined years of experience is 4, right? And that's only if you count this year as a full year. Okay,
Exactly.
So very different. But Armanhi, you had a chance in the first quarter to be involved in a class that no students at St. Luke's had ever taken before. And what was that class?
It was Lego Robotics.
Okay. And so the introduction that you had to Lego robotics and engineering, and maybe even sort of more generally just creativity, right? Because not everything I think that you did involved robotics necessarily.
Yes, sir.
What was that like? Was that sort of novel for you? Was that something that was new for you?
In a way, working with many of the different pieces in Legos, that was kind of new, but because I worked with maybe the more simple pieces you would see in like every Lego set you have. But these ones, they included many different pieces that I have never seen before, like pullbacks. I've never worked with those, ever.
Okay.
And you had different things that you could put together to help move a car and make different motors and things like that. So.
Now, one of the conversations that we had earlier today was about the academic vision for the school, and we talked about some different ways that we're looking to try to not just assess students, but help students become confident in self-assessment and in ways that maybe aren't traditional when you think about school. So what was the grade that you got for this Lego class?
It was an A.
Right? Everybody got an A, right? Because the grade wasn't really the point of it. Were there any tests that you took?
No tests.
Really no tests, right? But you were at one point asked to kind of give a self-assessment about some things. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What were the sorts of things that you were asked about on that self-assessment?
You were asked, what was your favorite thing about it? Do you think you would do this later in life?
Mhm.
Have you done this before? Things like that.
Right. You're also asked a little bit about creativity, right? About collaboration, how effective you thought you were as a member of a team. Do you remember doing that as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was that hard?
It was fun.
No.
I loved collaborating with people. I loved hearing other people's ideas also, including with mine.
Sure. You know, not every student feels that way. For some students, that's tough, and it's one thing to take a class and get a grade, and then the grade tells you something maybe about what you know, or what you can do, or what you did, but to be asked to evaluate yourself in terms of how well do I listen to the ideas that other people have, and provide them with feedback that can help that idea get better. Some of your classmates, I know this because I looked at the evaluations. They were honest and said, you know, I'm not really good at that, right? And so for us on the teaching side, trying to work with students to not just get better at building things with Legos, because that's fine, okay? It's to get better at being a part of a team, to get better at coming up with ideas that could lead to something or might lead to nothing, but that's okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the confidence that you need to say, well, here's something we could try, or well, what if we did this? And you're very confident, and you're very good at doing those things, but not everybody is. And so if we can help some students get better at that stuff, we would like to.
Yes, sir.
What was your favorite activity in that class?
My favorite activity, the cities.
You like that?
I like making the cities a lot.
Okay.
Because there were different parts of that project, especially. There was you actually designing your city. There was you actually building it. And then you also had to create a commercial and a brochure with it. I really liked the commercial part of it. And I liked the building part of it probably the most. It was good. Since I was working as a group, I had to hear other people out too. And I thought some of their ideas were better than mine sometimes. And I think that project was really cool.
That's great. So, Susan, the Legos that I have here now were not part of the class that Armanhi did, right?
Yeah.
Because there's another group of students that you see later in the day that is an older group of students who've been involved with things before, and this year, for the first time, those students are really being asked to do sort of a deep dive into some more advanced Lego things.
Yes,
Right?
that's correct.
Talk about that for a moment, please.
Well, it's interesting because it actually does span 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And out of all grades are represented, but it's not exactly equitable. I have more freshmen than I do the upperclassmen.
Right.
So because Legos is a brand new 8th grade course, some of my 9th graders don't already have an experience like Armanhi had. So it was real interesting watching them. You can tell they already have a passion for it, and they have some experience in Legos. I have one particular student, you probably know of whom I'm thinking of, who really didn't have any experience with building these cars.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yes, but you know what? He knew that it was a safe zone, so to speak, so it didn't matter. You can do things wrong. You can take it apart, redo it. He learned a lot, and you can see they've created, they all work pretty much the same way, but they are markedly different in style, to a degree in function.
Yep.
And so they've just had a really good time, and the end game or end goal is that they create a way for these robot vehicles to be soccer players, and we're trying to develop some game rules, all that goes into that, how big the playing field is, how many opponents do you have, how many on each team, that type of thing. And so we're starting to now get into the weeds, so to speak, on how to create a game from it. But it's taken them this long and a lot of iterations, and that's okay. They learn more from creating the next iteration than they do at the end, in my opinion.
Right, and so just to clarify, none of these vehicles
Or kits.
were built because there was a set of instructions that they
Correct.
were given to follow.
Right.
All of these are what they call MOCs, which is my own creation, right?
Right.
Students basically had a couple of very large boxes filled with assorted Lego parts,
Right.
and the challenge was to use those parts to be able to put together remote controlled vehicles that they could use in a competition setting to basically play soccer against another set of remote controlled Lego vehicles.
Correct.
And so in that sense, in the context of sort of trial and error, there you'd expect there'd be a lot of it, right?
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of prototyping that goes into thinking about how something might work. And you put together an idea that looks fantastic, and then you realize that as soon as it bumps into another vehicle, the critical parts fall, disconnect, and it's, oh well, that's not really going to work, and so you go back to the drawing board again.
Exactly.
But they've embraced that, haven't they?
They have, and there is that huge question mark in your head, form and function. This looks great. Oh, that didn't function too well. And we would talk through, well, do you think maybe this will happen or that? I don't know. Well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And a lot of times, literally nothing they tried for several times in a row would work. They were completely undaunted by that. They just kept plowing forward, and they would come up with another idea. And there was a lot of discussion, which was great as well. Sometimes you think, people who create things, they're in their own little world, and they don't. There's a lot of discussion. Not really so much, can you help me, just can you help me talk through this?
Right.
That's exciting to overhear those conversations.
If you spend any time with that class, especially I think over the course of a couple of days, right, just as an observer, you get to see how it is that the students develop their confidence in asking questions, right, trying things, and then asking questions when it's not working, and getting input from their classmates, or providing input to their classmates if they're asked, and then trying new ideas and seeing how that works. And all of it really is sort of student-led, right? There are opportunities for you to jump in and provide direction or to provide some clarity if they need that. But it isn't like it's controlled by you.
No.
In the sense that they are able to fully engage with each other in problem solving and troubleshooting and all those things in ways that I think are impressive for a group of high school students.
Absolutely, and I think if somebody could just watch that class, I think it would create the excitement that it should, because it's an amazing program. I've never taught in high school that embraced this idea of STEM, and I just couldn't be more excited. I want everyone to know about it.
It really is a lot of fun,
It
right?
is.
And we've talked about the idea that there could be a point in the future where, as an exhibition, right, we have the group take a bunch of their creations over to the Japonica campus, and maybe in the gym they put on a Lego robot car soccer match, so that an exhibition, right? So that the younger students can sort of see it, and that immediately we would have 100 students on that campus that said, "Wait, I want to do that." Right? And so
I think it'd really be inspiring.
I do too. The accessibility to students that are younger, that maybe wasn't there for robotics programs that we had previously. Next year, it's conceivable that we could have on both campuses, 50, 75 students involved in doing this.
And I really want to get the young ladies excited. It was, again, pretty equitable in the Lego class with the 8th graders, but in the robotics class, I have 10 students now, because we had a student transfer in, and I have 1 young lady and 9 gentlemen.
Right.
So I would love to just continue to encourage young ladies that this is not just a guy's world. It can definitely be, a place where young ladies can be just as successful. So.
Well, I don't know in my career that I've ever come across a student in 8th grade who had the combination of intelligence and confidence, but also personality and compassion. And I've told this story before, but I watched her once with a group of boys who who are trying to figure something out. And as I was observing, it was clear to me that Armani already knew how this was going to work best, but she didn't sort of jump to the front of the line. She let the other students sort of go through their ideas, and then she kind of came in and said, those are all good ideas, but what if we did it this way? And they immediately realized, oh, that's the way to do it. And I thought, that's someone that knows how to be a part of a team, right?
She's a master communicator.
Oh, she's fantastic, right? And so if the future of our programs involves students like Armani, young ladies or young men, right? We're in very, very, very good hands.
Absolutely.
So, well, I appreciate both of you being here at St. Luke's, right? And being here with me today to talk about our new venture into Legos as a part of our STEM program. And thanks so much for talking with me today.
No problem.
All right.
Absolutely.
Go Wildcats.
Learn while playing.
That's
Never
right.
getting better than that.
We'll be back at 3 o'clock, I guess, for our next interview.